But the Comforter, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, he shall teach you all things, and bring all things to your remembrance, whatsoever I have said unto you. John 14 verse 26. Today, Jesus presents himself before us to reveal the most extraordinary power that every human being harbors within, a divine gift granted since the day of our birth. If you feel that your life unfolds without a clear purpose, that there are aspects you need to change but find it difficult, or if you experience a persistent emptiness within, here may lie the answer you've been searching for. The key lies in exploring and understanding what God has destined for us, discovering and nurturing our inner comforter with the purpose of filling our lives with peace and love. I invite you to join me on this journey to unravel the new lesson that Jesus offers us and thus transform our existence. In our journey through life, we are continuous seekers of happy moments, joys, and tranquility. However, we often find ourselves stumbling over the same stones, repeating mistakes, and getting stuck in a cycle from which we can't seem to break free. We stand at a crossroads, not fully learning from the experiences we face or interpreting the lessons that God presents to elevate our spirit. Visualize our body as a divinely designed vehicle by God, destined to move driven by love. In this ingenious design, God has provided the Comforter, also known as the Holy Spirit, to each of us. We can compare the Holy Spirit to the precious fuel that graciously and powerfully propels our body, allowing us to navigate through life with a higher purpose, the purpose that God has for each of us. In this analogy, we recognize that, just as a car depends on its fuel to operate efficiently, we need to find, understand, and live from the Holy Spirit to lead a life filled with love, peace, and abundance. By acknowledging our Holy Spirit within us, God through it will teach us everything we need to learn in this life to elevate our consciousness, to spiritually ascend levels and live in the way Jesus lived during his time on earth. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Romans 12 verse 2. In this teaching, which intertwines with John 14 verse 26, and you'll understand why. Jesus comes to teach us that we have to allow God to transform us inwardly through the complete renewal of our minds. By discovering the presence of the Holy Spirit in our lives, a rich path of divine learning unfolds before us. God, through the Holy Spirit, provides us with deep and revealing teachings, endowing us with the ability to understand his words and acquire fundamental truths that guide our existence. Every interaction with the Holy Spirit becomes a source of knowledge and awareness, revealing to us the divine wisdom necessary to act with righteousness. In this process, life's trials and sufferings take on a transcendental meaning. Instead of being mere obstacles, they reveal themselves as learning opportunities designated by God. Each challenge becomes a lesson, each pain a divine teaching meant to propel our spiritual growth. These trials are not in vain. They are divine pedagogy that allows us to internalize life's deepest truths and understand God's will. As we learn through the Holy Spirit, our consciousness rises, and we become conscious actors of the divine teaching unfolding in every experience. The right information, guided by the Holy Spirit, becomes the beacon that lights our path, while higher consciousness becomes the foundation on which we build our actions. Essentially, each lesson, each challenge, becomes a step on the ladder of spiritual growth. God, through the Holy Spirit, provides us with the necessary tools to understand, learn, and grow in accordance with his divine plan. In this process, we transform life's trials into opportunities to achieve deeper understanding, higher consciousness, and a stronger connection with the divine essence guiding our earthly journey. For who has known the mind of the Lord so as to instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ. 1 Corinthians 2 verse 16. Saying that we possess the mind of Christ refers to a metamorphosis that encompasses not only our thoughts but also our emotions, actions, and life perspectives. It is a change that extends to all areas of our being, reshaping the very essence of our identity. The mind of Christ implies the absorption and adoption of the fundamental values that Jesus embodied during his life on earth. These values include unconditional love, compassion, justice, humility, and selfless giving. Acquiring the mind of Christ means internalizing these principles in a way that directs our everyday actions and decisions. Christ, in his teachings and example, demonstrated unparalleled compassion towards others. By having the mind of Christ, we find ourselves empowered to experience similar compassion toward our fellow beings. This compassion goes beyond mere sympathy. It involves a deep emotional connection and a willingness to act for the benefit of others. The mind of Christ grants us a divine perspective on life and purpose. It involves seeing the world and circumstances through the eyes of God, understanding situations from a higher spiritual dimension. This divine vision allows us to discern the will of God and act in accordance with it. It is not just about adopting certain isolated thoughts, but a transformation in how we process information and make decisions. The mind of Christ empowers us to think in alignment with the truth and divine will, distancing ourselves from the limitations and distortions of the worldly mind. Possessing the mind of Christ goes beyond understanding his teachings. It involves a profound transformation that affects all dimensions of our being. It is embracing divine values, manifesting compassion and empathy, adopting a spiritual vision, and fundamentally changing the way we think and act. It is a continuous process of spiritual growth that brings us closer and closer to the image and likeness of Christ. Now, being able to interpret the teachings written in the sacred scriptures, we can clearly see and relate that Jesus, sent by God, only came to leave us teachings on how to live a life worthy of peace, love, and abundance. These sacred verses unveil a transcendental mystery. The spiritual journey has a supreme goal, a destination that transcends earthly boundaries. That goal is the kingdom of heaven, and the most astonishing revelation is that it resides not in some distant place but within us. The promise of the Holy Spirit, as revealed in John 14 verse 26, becomes our divine guide on this inner journey. This celestial comforter not only shows us the way but also plunges us into the depths of our essence. It is the shining beacon that leads us to inner truth, a promise of divine companionship in every step of our spiritual pilgrimage. The next step, detailed in Romans 12 verse 2, leads us to mental renewal. It is not just about changing ideas but fundamentally transforming how we perceive the world and how we interact with it. This process is the gateway to the inner kingdom, where old mentalities are replaced by divine wisdom. Mental renewal becomes the process that clears the way to understanding the divine presence within us. 1 Corinthians 2 verse 16 completes this spiritual triangle by proclaiming the adoption of the mind of Christ on our journey. This verse confirms that, as we allow the Holy Spirit to guide us and our minds to be renewed, we not only acquire knowledge but also merge with the very mind of Christ. It is the culmination where our consciousness rises to deeper spiritual levels, revealing the magnitude of our connection to the divine. In summary, these verses offer us a sacred map to the kingdom of heaven within ourselves. The promise of the Holy Spirit, mental renewal, and the adoption of the mind of Christ are the pillars of this spiritual journey. By following this path, we discover that spiritual fullness is not in some distant place but latent in the deepest part of our being, waiting to be discovered in intimate communion with the divine.